Warning. This video contains super awesome content not suitable for people who don't enjoy super awesomeness.
Hey everyone, Knox here. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into one of the most crucial aspects of Bloodstrike, movement. Whether you're a seasoned player or just starting out, as you already know, mastering movement can give you a huge advantage on the battlefield. In this guide, I'm going to break down everything you need to know from the basics to drills and even detailed gameplay examples on how to move like a pro in Bloodstrike. Let's get started. Before we jump into the actual movement techniques, it's crucial to get your settings right. Having the optimal settings can make a huge difference in your gameplay. Let's take a look at the key settings you need to adjust. First up, let's look at what gives you control of your movement. Head over to Gameplay and Settings, and the first tab, which is Move. The first setting says Joystick Auto Run. If this setting is turned on, anytime you pull your joystick and it reaches the sprint icon, your character will run on its own without having to touch your joystick. But no, if you want good movement, you need to have full control of your game. Turn this setting off so that even if you're in an intense situation and you free your joystick, it doesn't force you to run into situations that could put you in danger. Next, the setting is Auto Sprint. It's the same thing as Joystick Auto Run. Turn it off too. If your Joystick Auto Run is already turned off, Auto Sprint will also be automatically turned off. Next up is Running Interrupts Crouching. Turn it on. Let's say you don't want to set your crouch button on hold. Turning this on will help you automatically stand up quickly the second you try sprinting, giving you a movement advantage. Another important setting is Tap Jump in jumping mode to use zipline. This is pretty self-explanatory, but later in the video, when I'm covering ziplines, I'll explain why this is so important. And yes, turn it on. Then there's Rotate Camera with Jump and Crouch button. Turn it on. I know mine is turned off, but here's why. My crouch and jump buttons are at the top right side of my screen, and I simply use my thumb to swipe my screen, or, in certain situations, use the gyroscope. But if your crouch and jump buttons are at the bottom right corner, I'll advise you to turn this on, as you can swipe the buttons at the same time, and it rotates your screen. Now, another important thing to set under your control is your joystick, as this is everything when it comes to your movement. I see comments where people complain about their joystick being stiff, and it's difficult for them to move, but really, you just need to know how to set it. So what you need to do is simply reduce your joystick size to 0, then pull your sprint button all the way down to its limit. Then increase your joystick size to exactly 30. As you can see now, the sprint button is under the joystick. Before, it couldn't go under, but now it's under your joystick, and the slightest movement you make would cause you to sprint, giving you a massive movement boost. Then pull the auto sprint button down too, and that's it. Before, you were walking before you could even sprint, but after this adjustment, it becomes way easier. No more walking, just sprinting. Now that we have our settings optimized, let's move on to the basics of movement. Mastering these basics is essential for surviving and thriving in Bloodstrike. First up, walking, running, and sprinting. I won't dive too deep into this one because if you've set your joystick the way I told you to, you'll automatically sprint. Remember, running makes more noise and can give away your position, so use it wisely. When pushing an enemy, apply your sprint with jumping, more like bunny hopping. The noise is way less than constantly sprinting. This method helps you close the distance quickly while staying less detectable. Then next, we have jumping. Tap the jump button to leap over obstacles or reach higher ground. Jumping side to side can help you evade enemy fire more easily. When jumping across obstacles, always try to scale over low walls or gaps instead of vaulting over. This maintains your momentum and keeps you in the action without slowing down. Now moving on to sliding. Sliding can only occur when you're sprinting and you tap the crouch button. Sliding is a fantastic way to quickly move into cover or engage in fights while making yourself a harder target. It can also be used to surprise enemies around corners. The slide maneuver can break the enemy's aim and give you the upper hand in close quarters combat. Then, another major stuff you need to know in movement is using cover. Always be aware of your surroundings and use cover to your advantage. Move from cover to stay protected from enemy fire at all times. Playing with cover when engaging in a fight will give you more tactical advantage. Peek out from behind cover to shoot, then quickly duck back to avoid return fire. Mastering this will make you a much harder target to hit. Then always combine the basic movements. Combine sprints, jumps, and slides to create fluid movement patterns. This makes you a harder target and allows you to reposition quickly. For instance, sprint into a slide, then jump to keep your momentum and stay unpredictable. Practice combining these movements to become more elusive and harder to pin down by enemies. Practice these basic movements until they become part of you. Mastering these basics will set you up for success as we move into more advanced techniques. Now that we've covered the basics, let's move on to some advanced movement techniques. Mastering these will give you a significant edge in Bloodstrike. Let's start with ziplining. Ziplining is an excellent movement option when you're facing a full squad, at low health and need to stall, or if you want to divide the squad and take them out one by one. When moving up the zipline, it's quieter and very quick, making you harder to track. The first thing to consider when using a zipline is quickly glancing to spot where your enemy is and trying to land some shots on them just before you land. This quick look helps you better understand the enemy's position and plan your landing. Next, let's talk about directional landing. Ziplines pop you up quickly and move you in a set direction. If you follow this default path, it's easier for enemies to target you. Instead, you should shift your joystick towards the direction you want to land. The best direction is usually the opposite side of your enemy to create space and land your shots easily. Additionally, ziplines are great for rotations. If you're at a disadvantage while using a zipline, you can simply hop off it and parachute in a different direction to reposition yourself. If you're being chased, stop at the exact end of the zipline and look down. In Bloodstrike, almost every location with a zipline has high ground just in front of it. Try landing on that high ground, or stop at the ledge of the zipline and aim at whoever is coming after you. Stopping at the ledge can cause the enemy to fall back down, giving you a tactical advantage to eliminate them. Next up, we have strafing. Strafing is essential for dodging enemy fire while maintaining your aim. There are two types of strafing. The first one is basic strafing, which involves moving side to side while aiming at your enemy. This makes it harder for them to land shots on you and is typically used in situations where you're shooting from behind cover or from a distance. The other type of strafing is advanced strafing. This technique combines sliding and jumping to make your movements more unpredictable. To perform advanced strafing, when you slide with your joystick facing one direction, jump up and pull your joystick towards the opposite direction, but forward. This type of strafing is particularly useful in intense close-range fights. The key to effective strafing is to be unpredictable. Change your direction frequently and vary your movement speed. This makes it much harder for your opponents to track you. Incorporate strafing into all your engagements to stay one step ahead. Finally, let's talk about slide canceling. This technique resets your sprint and makes your movements less predictable. To slide cancel, start a slide and quickly tap the crouch or jump button to end the slide and continue sprinting. There are two types of slide canceling: normal slide cancel and slide jump slide cancel. The normal slide cancel is where you simply use your crouch button to stop sliding. This is useful when you're sliding through doors or pathways, or whenever you want to break someone's ankles, yet still have that momentum. The slide jump method, on the other hand, allows you to quickly reposition while in close-range fights and dodge bullets effectively. This method is typically used in scenarios where you want to hip fire while in a fight, evade enemy fire while you're on the run over a far distance, or when going around corners, especially when you know the enemy is pushing towards that same corner. Slide canceling can be particularly useful in close quarters combat, where quick, unpredictable movements are crucial. Practice slide canceling in different scenarios to make it a natural part of your movement strategy. Take your time to practice these advanced movement techniques. Incorporating them into your gameplay will make you a more formidable player on the battlefield. With these skills, you'll be able to outmaneuver your enemies and dominate the game. Now that we've covered advanced movement techniques, let's dive into two crucial types of movement in Bloodstrike: strategic movement and combat movement. Each type plays a vital role in your gameplay, and mastering both will significantly enhance your performance. Starting with strategic movement. First and foremost, positioning and map awareness are key components of strategic movement. Always be aware of your surroundings and know the map well. Position yourself in high ground areas or places with good cover. High ground provides a clear line of sight and a tactical advantage over opponents, while cover minimizes your exposure to enemy fire. Use buildings, walls, and natural cover like rocks and trees to protect yourself as you move. For example, in this situation, there are two enemies pushing me. So, I use the hill to block the view of the second enemy coming from behind and try to handle the one in front first, and then going for the second one just right after, which makes everything so much easier, instead of getting beamed by both of them at the same time. Next up, you need to understand that rotating strategically is also crucial. Moving to the next safe zone early can secure you a good position and reduce the risk of getting caught in the open. However, if you prefer late rotations, make sure you have plenty of healing items and are aware of enemy positions. Move quickly and use cover to avoid getting caught off guard. And always move at the edge of the zone, as it'll always end up being a nightmare if you decide to go through the middle. Then, flanking is another vital tactic, particularly in squad battles. Solo flanks can confuse the enemy and split their focus. What I mean by solo flank is while your team engage in fight with the enemy, that gives you an automatic opening to start flanking, catching the enemy off guard and giving you and your team a significant advantage. But if you're playing alone, in situations of solo versus squad or just solos, you can start your flank the very second when the enemy has damaged you a lot, or you can use a smoke grenade to distract them while you go around. For example, in this situation, the squad I was facing, I've gotten two enemies down already, so all I do is use their healing time as a distraction and begin my flank. In summary, always look for something that can draw the enemy's attention or occupy their time while you begin your push. Also, baiting and ambushing are effective ways to outsmart your enemies. By exposing yourself briefly, you can draw enemy fire and reveal their positions, allowing you and your team to pinpoint their location and take them out. Setting up ambushes in high-traffic areas, such as in places where you know the enemies will pass through when the zone is pushing them, or near valuable loot spots, such as the loadout drop, which lead to easy eliminations. Sometimes, evading or retreating is the best strategy. Smoke grenades can cover your retreat or create a distraction, while zip lines and vehicles can help you quickly move away from dangerous situations and reposition yourself. For example, I was getting sniped here, and with the zone pushing, my chances of survival was low, so I smoked up the car and used it to rotate, and later taking the people who had an advantage on me out. Strategic movement is all about thinking ahead and using the environment to your advantage. By mastering these strategies and practicing them in different scenarios, you'll be able to outmaneuver your enemies and control the flow of the game.
Now that we've covered strategic movement, let's move on to combat movement. Mastering combat movement is crucial for winning fights and staying alive in Bloodstrike. Combat movement involves a range of techniques that help you evade enemy fire while maintaining accuracy and pressure. The key to effective combat movement is unpredictability and fluidity. There are some essential combat movement techniques to master, such as strafing, slide canceling, bunny hopping, and jiggle peeking. But you're probably wondering, Knox, how are we even going to use this in our gameplay? Well, here is where I'll handle it. First of all, let's talk about strafing. I've already explained what it is, so you should already understand, but you apply it in situations like this. Anytime someone shoots at you first, let's say a surprise attack, and you want to react quickly. When you slide out of your initial position and return back, the enemy tries to track you but loses it, because it's more like you've broken their aim. By the time you return, you start to shoot immediately. So it's basically you throwing the enemy's aim off balance for those first shots and taking advantage for yourself. If it's a good enemy, just strafe again, then get your aim back on them, and easy, you get them. Next, slide canceling is just beautiful. It's the most complex, but if you can master it, then you're good to go. It's used mostly against players with shotguns. You need to try and track every single time the enemy will take their shot and keep moving side to side. Just like here, I keep making this enemy miss as many bullets as possible by simply slide canceling. Now, I didn't mention this one earlier, but it's bunny hopping. I'll explain. Bunny hopping involves repeatedly jumping while moving to maintain speed and make it harder for enemies to hit you. This technique is particularly useful when an enemy has good movement or you're at a great disadvantage. Now, if your enemy has good movement, how does bunny hopping help? All it does is keep your enemy within your camera view, but in a fast manner. As you can see, this guy is moving fast, and a lot of you would get confused, but all I did was stay calm, gave him his space to dance by hopping backward, and easy peasy, he was all in my aim. Same with this other guy here. Every time he kept trying to come closer and closer to my screen, I kept hopping back, keeping him within my screen, and I got him easily. Then we have jiggle peeking. Jiggle peeking involves quickly moving in and out of cover to bait shots from your enemies and gather information without fully exposing yourself and attacking them at the same time. You know how people pretend to run behind cover even with low health, and all of a sudden, they run out back and surprise you? Well, that's jiggle peeking. Always use it to deceive your enemies, especially when they are hot on your tail. In combat, fluid and unpredictable movements are your best defense against enemy fire. Combine these techniques to create a movement pattern that keeps your opponents guessing and gives you the upper hand in engagements. Now let's look at how unique striker skills can aid with movement. In Bloodstrike, each striker has unique skills that can enhance your movement and tactics on the battlefield. Nova's Tactical gives you a speed boost, perfect movement boost, or escaping dangerous situations. Spike's Cloak grants temporary invisibility, allowing for sneaky maneuvers like flanking or escaping. Zero's Shadow Strike lets you teleport a short distance, ideal for dodging attacks or repositioning in a fight. Ethan's Slide provides a quick dash in any direction, useful for evading gunfire or moving into cover during intense firefights. By mastering these skills and knowing when to deploy them, you can outmaneuver opponents and dominate the battlefield. We've covered a lot today, from basic and advanced movement techniques to strategic and combat movement, and finally, how to utilize unique striker skills. Mastering these elements is crucial for gaining an edge in Bloodstrike. Remember, the key to success lies in practice and adaptability. Keep honing your skills, stay unpredictable, and always be aware of your surroundings. By incorporating these techniques into your gameplay, you'll be well on your way to outmaneuvering your opponents and dominating the battlefield. Thanks for watching, and if you found this guide helpful, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more Bloodstrike tips and strategies. See you on the battlefield.
Also, one more thing, guys, please try not to forget any of this.